So, good afternoon, perhaps good morning, or maybe even good evening, depending on what time zone you're in. And it is my absolute honor and pleasure to be part of this conversation. Before I start, I just want to say thank you to Renee and her incredible team, SP, Grace, Dania. I mean, what can we say about AACUC? Think of all that they do to ensure that we get to that community and that we really do the work that needs to be done in DEIB. I also want to take a moment to address all the men in here. So, Sunday is International Men's Day. So, we are inclusive, and we know the men often sometimes get left out. So, men, go out and make it your day. International Men's Day, Sunday, take your day and celebrate. I want to say before we start, I have a word of advice. Get your recorders, get pen and paper, get something, because the nuggets you're about to get are definitely going to be great ones. The individuals you're going to hear sharing, and also just the group. The questions we may get, even what people may share in chat, will definitely be things you want to take a note of. So now, let's get to it. I'm going to turn it over first to Deborah so she can introduce herself. Deborah, over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Carlene. It's wonderful to see you again. And I have to echo your words. Please give a wonderful round of applause and thank you to Renee and her fantastic and amazing team for putting this together. We need these conversations. So I am just happy to be here. I am Deborah Fears, President, CEO of the Chicago Post Office Employees Credit Union.
Thank you, Deborah. And again, happy to be doing this with you. Looking forward to a great conversation. Sharon, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I too am very excited to be here today with all of you. Thanks to Renee and her amazing team. Thanks to you, Carlene, for your amazing leadership in this conversation that we're going to take place today. I am Sharon Camper. I am the Chief People Officer with Apple Federal Credit Union in Fairfax, Virginia.
Thank you, Sharon. So by now you've had a chance to get everything you need. So let's get started. So our first question. So Deborah, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. And how can women in executive roles within the credit union inspire and really empower their teams to drive innovation and progress? We know how important innovation is to moving forward. So tell us, share some nuggets with us about that.
Yeah, Carlene, that's a great question. Innovation and progress, I mean, that's the foundation of your business, right? And honestly, I have to say, I think we hopefully all know this. It starts with DEI. I mean, the more diverse your team is, you have diversity of talent, diversity of thought, gender, etc. The list goes on. The more perspectives you gain. And so there's going to be greater opportunity for innovation and growth. I mean, if you think about if everyone has the same thoughts, the same backgrounds, I think that the results end up being somewhat limited. So when it's evident that your organization advocates and promotes a diverse and inclusive culture, then you're going to continue to attract that. And that is going to be what drives innovation. Another thing I would say that's really important for executive women, you have to invest in your team. You want to empower up and coming leaders, empower colleagues, whether it's providing opportunities for networking, mentorship, trainings, cross collaborations, just anything that is going to put your team out there and get them exposed. You want to make sure that you're providing access and just putting your teams in a position where they're forward facing, they're out there. I think that is what drives innovation and growth. They have to see what's missing, where are the gaps, where are the opportunities, and you have to be out there to see it. But again, it starts with DEI, and so that's where I think women, female executives can play a huge part.
Sharon, what can you add to that?
Well, Deborah covered it all. I completely echo everything that she just said. I think that women in credit unions can inspire and empower their teams by leading them inclusively and promoting a workplace culture where everyone's voice is heard and valued. We can drive innovation by ensuring our team members stay up to date with technology trends, that streamline our processes and improve our efficiency. We can also encourage collaboration across departments and networking with external professionals to gain insight on what's best practices are. And, most importantly for me, never stop learning. I feel like as female executives, it is vital that we become subject matter experts in our respective fields. I tell my staff to be the best that they can be in their roles and pursue the knowledge, skills, and credentials that they need to achieve their career goals. So I think as female executives, we need to set the standard and ensure that we are representing what we are looking for in the future.
So I heard several nuggets here. DI being the first key player, investing. Invest. We know what we invest in is what grows, where you put your money, right? That's what's growing. So it's the same thing. If you invest in your people, we talked about training, the importance of training your talent to be able to get them to the place where they need to be. I heard access. That's a very key word. Who gets access? How do you ensure that the right people have access? I heard technology. And we all know how technology goes. I mean, it really, we suddenly chasing after technology constantly. Best practice is another buzzword I heard. So hopefully we're taking notes. And lastly, I think what really stood out to me is learning. Be open to learning. We are consistently learning. We are consistently evolving. So I think there we had some action-packed information right there. So this was really good information. And I noticed that Stacy said that they were spot on. Stacy, I agree 100%. So let's go to another question. And Sharon, this time I'm going to start with you. So what strategies have you found to be effective for promoting inclusion within your credit union's leadership, the staff? How do you ensure you promote inclusion?
Excellent question. As an HR professional, I have found several effective strategies for promoting inclusion within my credit union and the leadership and staff. Getting the support and buy-in from senior management is essential when we're promoting and sustaining inclusivity. Creating a DEI strategy that outlines our commitment to fostering an environment of inclusion, equity, and accessibility is crucial. And another strategy is offering diversity training and awareness programs to foster an inclusive mindset throughout the credit union. This can be achieved through leadership development training that emphasizes the importance of ensuring all employees feel like they belong, establishing employee resource groups that represent and support affinity groups within your organization, and implementing programs such as organized events, workshops, and initiatives that celebrate cultural differences can help. And then the overarching strategy that I think is most important is consistency, making sure that we not only talk the talk, but walk the walk as well.
Thank you for that, Sharon. Before I move on, I was made aware that Day just joined. So Day, if you can introduce yourself as a panelist before we continue on, that would be great.
I will do that. Good afternoon, everyone, and my apologies for being late. We just wrapped up board meetings. I am Day Matthews. I'm Chief Legal Officer and General Counsel for Local Government Federal Credit Union and Civic Federal Credit Union, both in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I'm happy to be here.
Yes, definitely glad to have you on board. So I'm just going to repeat the question in case you didn't get it, and then I'm going to give Deborah a chance to comment, and they give you some chance to settle into the question. So We're talking about effective strategies for promoting inclusion in the credit union leadership. So Deborah?
Yeah, I think Sharon had a fantastic list. I think the only thing I would add to that is, I try to make it personal. And what I mean by that is really identifying the specific needs of the leadership. Because when it comes to career growth, when it comes to leadership growth, it's not a one size fits all box that you can just hand out to everybody. You really have to understand the needs of the team and try to speak to that for each person.
Yeah, that's good, Deborah.
Right. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I was going to just tag on to that because I don't know what else was said, but I really like that last point about essentially knowing your audience, right? Okay. Everyone doesn't receive criticism and communication the same way. So you really have to tap in. I tell my folks this all the time who are growing up in management. Learn your folks, learn how they communicate, how they best receive constructive criticism. There's some people who are more sensitive than others. You obviously want to grow people, but be mindful that you talking to one person in a certain way may not be received the same as someone else. That's about inclusion, right? You have folks who have different personalities. You have folks who are introverts, extroverts. And so you gotta be mindful of that. If you give an introvert a huge project and push them in front of a large bunch of folks, you may have a different reaction. You want to grow them, but be mindful of everybody's personalities, their strengths, and their talents, and work within them. That's the best way, I think, to include people of all different backgrounds, experiences, and communication, right, skills.
Great information. And I really heard again some really good nuggets there. Belonging. One thing I do know about belonging is, apart from belonging at home, people want to belong the most at work. So I'm really glad that you highlighted that, Sharon. Our resource groups. I mean, for us at UNFCU, they have been phenomenal. I call we call them business resource groups at UNFCU. I literally call them powerhouses. They are an integral part of our DEIB strategy. And I'm telling you, we couldn't have done it without it. Consistency, that's another buzzword that really stick out to me. I mean, you need to be consistent. That's a key factor into delivering what you need to do to get your leaders there. Deborah, I cannot say it enough. I echo Day. Understanding the individual needs. We've always known it's never one size fits all. I mean, the way we learn, we will learn differently, we address things differently. So obviously we cannot expect to put square pegs, round holes. These are not new lessons to us, but I really like that you really focus on that we have to understand the team and make it personal. As women, I'm sure you've had experiences. So feel free to share stories where, you've had an experience where they tried to fit you into a square hole, or you really having to do what you needed to do to make the experience personalized. So it's all a part of how we get to the next step. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And can I just add really quick, what the other thing I was going to say is, once you get your processes in place, you have these resource groups and all these things, the consistency is there, but sometimes you have to reevaluate it. You can't just leave it. I think that, DEI and inclusion, it has to be intentional, and it has to be like any other process improvement. You're always creating and evaluating and analyzing, maybe reworking it, rethinking how you are reaching your people. And so I think you just always have to look at where you are and see what you can do better. So I just wanted to add that.
Thanks, Dave. Sharon, I don't know if you have any more comments on that. Okay.
I think
what I will, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I definitely think that Deborah and Dave have hit it on the nose. The one thing for sure is to reevaluate your programs, make sure that they're vital, make sure that employees find them useful, and then making sure that, the most senior leadership is involved in it, embraced in it, I think that makes a difference.
I agree. And one thing we did learn, if you learn nothing during the pandemic, is really having to pivot, change. So yes, consistency was important, but the one lesson we've all walked away with is definitely have to pivot, know when to evaluate, how to make it work. So that was such an incredible lesson for each of us, not only in our work life, in our personal life, so many areas. So you have really given us some great nuggets here. So how about we look at this third question? And Day, I'm going to start with you. So,
Okay.
Financially, there are a lot of things going on. And, credit unions primarily, they have to adapt to the challenge of the rapidly changing financial landscape. So as a female executive, what would you say are some of the challenges you face? And how do you handle them? I mean, a lot is changing. And women are really a big part of the financial landscape.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's ever changing. And I don't know if It's particular, the changes are particular necessarily to the financial industry when you talk about women in the executive suite, right? That there are so many different things that sort of cross the spectrum industries that we all deal with, right? No matter what industry you're in, right? You're dealing with microaggressions and how to deal with biases and cultural expectations and so forth. I think we need to learn to further emphasize the strengths and the power that women bring to the table instead of focusing on combating and dealing with the stereotypes. And that needs to start from the head down. So one of the strengths and the ways in which I think women are best suited to help with the transformation in the financial industry is just continuing to be our empathetic selves that we are. I think we can all agree that women have a particular knack, right, at demonstrating servant leadership and empathetic leadership. Not all, because I don't want to stereotype, but certainly that is an area that we have great strength in. And engaging other folks, making folks feel comfortable. Man, is that not a strength in all industries, but particularly in the financial service industry? And now when things are changing from a technological perspective, you have folks who are older coming in who don't feel comfortable, who are not quite adept at many of the technological advances we have. What better people, right, than to help acclimate them and make them feel comfortable than women, right? Showing our empathetic leadership, our servant leadership. And so I think that's just one of the ways that we can sort of help navigate the many transformations, just continue to be ourselves and highlight, right, our strengths, because I really do think that that's what makes us stand apart, quite honestly, from our male counterparts, right? It helps us stand apart.
I love it. I love it. Sharon, Deborah, any of you want to add something to that?
I'll jump in here. They kind of took the words out of my mouth. Women are just naturally nurturers. I think, like you say, you don't want to stereotype, but I am consistently in awe and just inspired by so many of my colleagues and friends within this industry, outside of this industry, who are just kicking butt managing life. Right. And, as an executive of a smaller organization, my team is very lean. And so even here, we're wearing, 1,000 hats every day. And so when I think about adapting to challenges, first I have to think about, well, when can we even think about that? How to adapt,
That part.
And there's so many challenges, but I think another thing we have to think about from a leadership perspective is, how do we get more female executives in the room? That may be the first step to adapting to the changes. As Day said, women bring so much to the table, and we need more. We need more female women. We need more females at the table in the room. We need more women of color in the room at the table. And so I think that is a key to just starting to think about and tackling these challenges, is just having the right players at the table.
Everything both of you just said, absolutely echo. And, I think it's what else is important is not only making sure that we can have the right people in the room, but providing them the access, the tools that they need to get in the room, right? Having the ability to go to different training programs, participate in different project teams, being more visible, so that they are the ones looked to when they are future opportunities. And I think that, as an HR professional, the one thing I try to do is to figure out how can we provide more opportunity and what programs should we be considering? Should we be considering mentoring programs where we're partnering women with other successful women? Should we be looking at programs where we can have our executives mentor an individual or send them to a conference that's going to help them really hone in on their skills. And I think it was you, Deborah, who said this before, learning the audience and learning what they want to do and providing that opportunity for them to get there.
Absolutely. And Sharon, I wanted to touch on one other thing you said earlier. Just one other thing is just, I think female leaders have to stay ready, right? They have to stay ready to adapt.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Staying ready. I love it.
Yeah.
And I'll just add this last little thing. I know we need to move on to another question, but this is just a lively, really good conversation. I always get encouraged when I have conversations like this. But can I be transparent and real and say, women, we need to help each other, right?
Yes.
We need to advocate for each other. Let's not continue to just lean consistently on men. We need men because they're the ones who are, in terms of systems, are still at the head, right? But us women, when we get to a certain position, and we talked about this at the AACU conference, we got to put that foot in the door. Yes. Right? And keep it open for others. We need to recognize that there's room at the table for more than one of us. We got to be women's women. I tell that to folks all the time. I told that to my brother when he was looking for a wife. I said, listen, the most important quality is she is a girl's girl, a woman's woman, right? That is someone who uplifts other women, who doesn't feel like, she's the only one that can be there and is subversive to other people, but keeps that foot in the door, advocates for other women when they're not in the room, and celebrates other women together. We got to help each other, ladies.
Oh, Day, you are saying a word today. You are saying a word. Oh my gosh, that just hit home for me. I'm sorry. It hit home for me, but that supporting each other.
Yes.
You have to support each other. I have been in situations where
that part.
The support wasn't quite there.
We are our worst enemies sometimes.
Exactly.
It's so important that we have to uplift each other. There's room for everybody. Everybody plays their part. Everybody has their own special skill set that they can contribute. So we have to support each other. Yes,
absolutely.
And ladies, the audience absolutely agrees with you. I mean, when I look at the points, I see there's room for more women at the table. Love that. Be a woman's woman. Lift as we climb. Yes, we confront divisions within our agenda and need to support each other. I see words like sisterhood. I mean, these are all really good things that tell us, the importance of being together. And we talked about these things, playing to our strengths. Often people talk about women being emotional, but it can be a strength, I mean, your emotion is your strength. We talk about servant leadership. We were built to do these things. And how do we play to these strengths as we're in the workplace and we're doing that? Think of women's share of wallet in the financial industry. Who's making some of these heavy decisions on a daily basis? So really playing to our strengths, yes, we have to adjust. Sometimes, I feel like we have a light switch. One moment we're here, next moment we're there. As Deborah rightly says, sometimes you don't even know when you're switching. We've literally become chameleons as we do this job. So yeah, I really see some really powerful there. But I think really the sisterhood, learning to uplift women. If you take nothing else from this right here, understand the importance of women uplifting women. And men uplifting women. I mean, I see lots of men on these conversations. We need you. We really understanding the importance of male allyship. I can talk about it. I mean, at my own credit union, UNFCU, we have had a lot of good allyship. I see Paul Heiselman, who has really been a great ally for us. I see him on that call. So really having that allyship and helping, to uplift each other, I think that is incredible. So some really good conversation going here. So, we still have a lot we can chat about. So let's go to another question and talk about, how can credit unions effectively utilize female leadership to stay competitive with other financial institutions? Being cooperative, member-centric, that's our thing. That's our strength. We are member-centric. We do it well. So how can women lead the charge? What can we do as women in that space to really capitalize on that competitive edge that we really have as credit unions? I'm going to start with you, Sharon.
Credit unions leverage the value of strong member relationships. That's our core value, you know, most of us. And we should make sure that that's part of what we do when we try to grow our female leaders. We can leverage female leadership by actively promoting diversity and inclusion at all levels. You know, we want to make sure that there's room at the table, but we have to realize too that Gen Y and Gen Z is coming along behind us, preparing them for those roles as well. Making sure that we offer the opportunity to that our employees need to see that we're going to be an ally for them. You know, we've gotten to the C-suite, so it's now our turn to now bring them along. And I think the best way to do that is investing in them. I know we used that word before, but investing your time, your talents, your knowledge, your skills, mentoring them, helping them to understand that, you know, this is an opportunity, a journey for you to go on to get to where you want to be. And then, you know, I know for myself, there have been times in my career where it just looked like I'm not going to get there. I'm just not going to get there. And then just having faith in yourself that, you know, working hard will get you the results that you want. Finding that person who believes in you as well, and using that individual to keep you motivated. You talked about sisterhood. Absolutely. I've had some amazing sisters who have said, keep going, you can do this. I decided to change credit unions later in my career. I was at a credit union for 14 years. I decided to join the credit union at a little bit later in my career. And some people were saying, well, why would you do that now? I mean, you've been here so long and you're so settled. And I'm like, you know what? You got to step outside your box to get what you want. You have to put yourself out there. You have to make sure people see you. They know who you are. They know what you want. And, you know, sometimes it's uncomfortable. That's what we need to do to ensure that we are giving opportunities for others and pulling them along.
Love it.
You're on mute.
You're on mute, Carmen.
Anybody else wants to add to that? Day, I see you're off mute, so.
I told on myself. Yeah, Sharon hit it. I mean, all those ways in which, those levers, right, that we need to be pulling on a consistent basis to help get us there. How do we keep it? Let me say this first of all. I'm really proud of the credit union industry, particularly when you compare us to the banking industry. I think the CUNA Women in Leadership report came out recently, you know, indicating that we have made some significant strides, right? I think 51% of credit union CEOs are women. 33% of our board members are women, compared to banks who are at like 4% in terms of CEOs. I think they said a female in the credit union industry has like a 25% greater chance of being a CEO than a woman in the banking industry. So we're doing it. How do we become more competitive? We got to compete against ourselves. All right. And so I've said this in the past. I think that is a wonderful relative way of looking at things. But if we continue to compare ourselves to the banks, I feel we will fall into a place of inertia and mediocrity. I mean, we all agree, right? The reason we're in this industry is because we believe it's the best industry for improving the financial lives of members. So to me, to compare ourselves against banks is apples and oranges. Like, that's a pretty low bar. We got to raise the bar for ourselves, right? And we're doing it at the top, but we need to disperse these women CEOs and these women executives throughout the bands of asset size in our credit union, right? We have the 50% I talked about, the 51% is generally $1 billion and lower, right? And that is not to minimize all of my sisters who are doing the hard work, the grassroots work in our small organizations, but to really affect gender income gaps, not wage. Wage is, 80 cents to $1, which still is the case, but income levels of women who are in leadership. You have to have more women at the larger size credit unions to start evening out things. And so while we are making great strides, we have a Beverly Anderson at BECU, we have a Lee Brady at SECU, right? We're holding up the mantle with Mary McDuffie at Navy Federal Credit Union. So those are the three largest credit unions in the country. That's only, guys, like 15% with some other ones of all billion-dollar credit unions. We got work to do. That's not even looking at banks. That's looking inward, right? How do we keep our competitive edge? We compete against ourselves, right? We don't compare ourselves to anybody else. I believe we can do better with all the levers that Sharon just mentioned.
Deborah, anything to add to that?
Day hit it. She hit it on the spot. Day and Sharon. I mean, I think that Day brought up a really good point about, do we really want to be competing with the larger financial institutions? We need to look at ourselves and figure out how we can make things better in our own industry. And another thing that Sharon said earlier is looking at yourself, having that confidence in yourself to achieve. We've heard the statistics that a lot of times women will not go for that promotion, where men, they could have, zero, they could not be qualified at all, but they're gonna go for it. So I think
that
part, right? And so I think just having that confidence in yourself, I think in terms of an organization utilizing female leadership, first, I think the organization needs to recognize the value that female representation brings to the organization. We still have, unfortunately, some organizations out there that have not gotten to that point yet. So just the initial step, let's understand what women bring to the table, what they bring to this industry. Let's get those women, let's get them a seat at the table. Once you figure that piece out, then you're going to attract more skilled workers. You're going to attract a more diverse team that is there's their innovation and growth coming again. So you need that. Women can help you get there. And it's going to have a trickle down effect, because as you bring more women in, then it's going to allow those more junior level women to come in, and they'll see themselves and they'll aspire to get to the higher level as well. So I think it just equals better results all around.
Some powerful words there. What you said really stuck with me. We don't do mediocrity. I mean, really, we know our superpowers, right? As credit unions, why compare ourselves to big banks? We're doing better. We really
are better. That's right.
When we look up, so we need to start to play to our superpowers and sell our superpowers.
Yes.
Time for us to wear our CU on our chest, and really show what we are, and the role women really play. And Deborah, you said it well. We really want to think about, when we look up, the inroads that have been made for us, what we continue to do, and just looking at what people put in the chat. Women tend to overthink, and we need that confidence to be able to do that information. And then also just women as a whole, coming together, looking for the support. All of these are the things we really look for to go forward. So that now brings me to an interesting question, and I'm going to dive deep here, and let's just talk about some really meaty stuff. So, you came up. Who were some of the people in your lives that really influenced you when you were doing it? So, people on the call might want to know, okay, I need to do this. I'm probably not getting the support I need. We all talk about the importance of mentorship or sponsorship. Who are some people who influence you? How did you get these doors open? How did you, overcome these hurdles and these barriers? Let's share a little bit of some of these stories so we can share these nuggets. Who's going to take it? You want to start, Deborah?
Okay, I can start. I'm trying to think of the list, because it is a long one, right, Day? It's a long list. I mean, I have had so many amazing men and women, just colleagues and friends inside the industry, outside the industry. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. I mean, like you said, it doesn't have to be anything formal. You know, when you think about mentorship, sometimes it's just an informal conversation that sparks something in your mind that says, you know what, I could do this, or I can go for this promotion, or I'm going to go and try and work on that project with this other team. I mean, it doesn't have to be anything formal. That's what I have learned throughout my career. It's just you network with whoever you can network with. You're gonna gain some kind of nugget that you can take with you. You know, you learn from everyone you come in contact with. That's what I would
Absolutely.
say.
Mhm.
Dave?
Yeah, it's hard. The list is so hard. I've said this before, but I have even at this point in my career, I have a tribe of mentors, right? People who I go to for different aspects in my life, right? They're saying, you have friends, you all have friends that, you got one friend that you go to regarding romantic stuff, or you have another one that you go to business stuff about. It just sort of depends on where they are. And so I try to draw upon people's strengths and what they bring to my life. In my career space, it started probably with the judge that I clerked for right after law school, who was just a huge supporter and fan of mine. He was an advocate, and we talk about that allyship and advocacy. Advocacies are those ones who are ride or die folks, right? They are the ones who are saying your name and celebrating you when you're not in the room. Right. So he, despite my many, failures and shortcomings, just so encouraged and always a Dave fan. So someone like that. And then as I grew in my career, I have a white female mentor who has helped me tremendously. She's the individual who I learned how to litigate from. I have white males, gotta have white males, right? Because let's be honest, they are the ones who, in most cases, are the ones who are at the head, who are in the power structure. But there's so many of them who are willing to reach down and help. And so when you can find that, latch on to it.
Absolutely.
So I've done that as well. And then most recently, my goodness, one of the most important, significant mentors in my life, my former CEO, Maurice Smith. He's the one that hired me, brought me into this industry. I had never worked, I'd done some litigation for credit unions and banks, but I had not worked in the operational setting, right? In the back office. And so when he came to me and approached me and asked me to leave my partnership and come, I was so anxious, y'all. I was so nervous. I did not think I could do it. And he had the confidence in me. He said, I will give you the resources you need to get caught up, to learn what you need to learn, and I will support you, because what's most important is I trust you. So ladies, listen, your credibility and your trust and your name will take you further than you will ever physically go. And so he said, I'm coming to you because I heard about your name and your reputation, and I know you and I trust you. I believe you can get there. I will support you. And he has continually done that to the point when he decided to retire. I mean, they had to get me off his leg, y'all. I was like, don't leave me. But those are the type of, folks you want in your life. And he continues to be a mentor to me.
Sharon?
So again, the list is way too long to try to go back through my umpteen years in the business to remember. But I can tell you that I've had some folks who really believed in me a lot more than I believed in myself. And
Yes.
one thing one individual comes to mind, a white male. He has been a close friend for almost 20 years. He would drag me to events. He would have me in front of everyone. This is Sharon Camper. This is Sharon Camper. And I'm like, oh my God, will you stop? But it made such a difference in my life, when I realized that, hey, I'm in the room with these very important people who I'm aspiring to be, and taking advantage of that. Having that person who believes in you more than you believe in you is essential. It's priceless. And then taking that opportunity to realize that someone's got your back. Someone is always promoting you. That's your cheerleader. That's always on your side. So I've had many folks like that throughout my career, but that person comes to mind. And I know if he was on this call, he'd be like, yeah, that's me. Because he is constantly, okay, and we're gonna
Yes.
be here, we're gonna be here. And I'm like, please stop.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
and I think that, go ahead, Dave.
no, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm gonna let you go. Then I'll speak to something you just said.
No, I mean, this is an exchange because
Yeah. When you just
inspiring me.
said if he were on the call, he would know you were talking about him. So what that speaks to is the importance, ladies. We talk about people celebrating us. We need to return it. And
Absolutely.
celebrate your mentors. Let them know you appreciate. My mama used to always say, Dave, nobody got to do nothing for you. That's right. They don't.
They right.
So it's important as they highlight and speak up for you, you need to give them accolades as well and say, I appreciate you. I thank you for the mentorship. You don't know how long of a ways that will go to furthering the relationship, them wanting to do even more for you. Yeah. Right? Because they know you're grateful and you're appreciative.
Yeah. And you know what, Dave, something you said, when you find those people, latch on, you know,
yes.
Because you need to recognize when people are trying to, and they want to see you progress. They want to see you succeed.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and again, they could be any shade, you know. I too had a white male that kind of guided me, even for this position. And you know, would send me out and just, and like you said, I was nervous. I'm like, okay, I guess, you know, I'll go and try to network and whatever. But when I think about it, had it not been for him, I probably would not be sitting here right now. I'm not gonna say I wouldn't get there, but he played such an instrumental role in my professional growth. But you have to recognize when those people are there so that you can take from them. So you can accept the help. And then in turn, like you said, celebrate them. You have to be able to accept it. Yes.
Accept the help. I like that, Deb.
I do too, because
that's a great
I
one.
was resisting the help for a while. And then I'm like, okay, you know what? This is not bad. Because what it does for you, it gives you that visibility. Your name is on people's lips that can make a difference in your life, right? They know you. You know, they may not know you personally and what you accomplished, but they know of you. And they know of your work. So I would just recommend to all the females on this call or males, make sure that you have that advocate for you, and then make sure that you're in the places that will allow you to be seen.
Yeah. And what did they say? Make sure you have someone who is saying your name when you are not in the room and speaking up for you and recommending you when you are not in the room. That is such a key. Power. And I have someone like that as well too on my team.
Valuable in it.
Yeah, invaluable.
Very valuable. You know, some really key takeaways there. I really like to celebrate. I have to say I have been very fortunate. My own boss, Lynn Healy, who is my supervisor, she celebrates and I feel it. And then it makes me want to do more. So, you know, you come into the office and you know your good things will be celebrated. You're like, you know, I know you have my back. So just having somebody like that. And as a leader, then it makes me want to go ahead and do so for the people who report to me, because I know how it felt to be celebrated. So pay it forward. I see somebody paying it forward. So you were celebrated, celebrate others. That's really key. And I think of Miss Renee and how she really is Queen Renee, celebrating, bringing us together always. I mean, that is Renee's superpower. I really want to acknowledge that. And so the importance of that, you know, you just cannot underestimate how powerful that is. And really, like I said, being able to pay it forward. We've had these mentors allowing people to understand that. I really like that, you know, we have the opportunity to now pay it forward, share it forward. So really bringing that into the room, I think that's powerful. And so for people coming up, people trying to understand how you do it, you get these mentors, latch on, pin yourself, chain yourself to a good mentor. But very important what they said, and I heard from Sharon and them, recognize them too. Let them, you know how much you appreciate them and what they have done for you, and really creating room. So yeah, these are all really great examples of how we can go ahead and pay it forward. So I saw somebody here write a question about balance. So I just want to address it. So they asked, how do you balance And that's really an important question in today's society where everything is coming at us constantly. So I don't want to know if any of you can share some information about how you balance it all, because it really is another superpower that you have to have in this day and age. Day, I'll start with you.
I was gonna say, put me last because I'm still working on that.
You and me. Now, yes,
Oh,
I'm thinking the
balance.
same
What's
thing,
that?
Dave. Like, balance, that
Yeah,
actually where
what's
happens?
balance, right? What
I got all the
is
balls up in the air.
All the balls in the air. It is not easy. Absolutely not. You got to have good folks around you, hold you accountable, and to protect you from yourself sometimes, right? Have them in the workplace. I have accountability
that
partners
part?
in the workplace who help me sort of balance. They kind of can read my expressions, read my aura, and know when I'm stressed, or know when I'm getting upset, and they can sort of help recenter me, which is good to have in the workplace. And then, of course, most importantly, right, your family and your friends being there to sort of bring you back. You know, I'm lucky to have a family, and my husband is wonderful about recentering me and letting me know that I don't have to carry the entirety of the load, as well as my friends. And so, yeah, you got to lean on other folks. You can't expect to be able to do it all. And we sometimes do it as, you know, women, we think we're super women, and it becomes tough. And it's particularly tough, can I say, a lot of times for women of color, because there are other societal things coming at us that put this weight on us. That I think we hold in a different way than others. And so it's that balance is tough. So you really have to have a lot of folks sort of holding your crown up, as Miss Renee would say, when it starts to tilt a little. That's all I got. I'm a work in progress.
Yeah, you know what, Day, I was gonna say that because when I think about balance, if I could just be real and authentic here on the call, I don't know that I do a very good job a lot of the time. In fact, I probably do a bad job sometimes. But you know, like they said, we are all works in progress, and I think that's kind of the key. Just recognizing that we are works in progress. It's not going to look perfect. It's not going to be perfect, but you have that tribe, you have that professional tribe. They, like you said, protecting you from yourself. That is so important. I need that. I need that. Wonderful family, husband, my work tribe, just those people who support you and let you know when, hey, you know what? You need to have a seat. You know, you need to have a seat and recalibrate and let's try it again. You know, so I would not be functionable. I would not be able to function without those tribes. So I'm working on it.
I echo everything you both said. I mean, you know, let's just keep it real. We all have lives outside of work, right? You know, I am someone who's a caregiver for my dad. I have, you know, a busy work life. I oversee 2 committees at my job. I have things in it that I do outside of work. So balance, that's why I was like, what does that mean? Again, because I really don't feel like I have much. But to your point, you have to have people around you that know when your crown is tilting and you need to be straightened up. You have to have people who know how to give you that space when you need it to say, hey, I just need a breath. You know, because there are so many times in our lives, especially women of color, when we feel like we're just not getting ahead. We're trying so hard and we're just not getting anywhere. And that's when you have to have that community to help encourage you and keep you motivated. So I think that when it comes to balance, realizing that you don't have to do everything yourself.
Right. There
If you could just believe that, you know.
Relax, relate, release. You don't have to do it all. Found an outlet. I see in the chat many people talking about self-care. You know, mental health exercises, whether it's meditating, yoga, exercise, whatever it is. You know, my stress relief. Everybody knows who knows me, which is kind of funny. Y'all, don't tell nobody I said this because I will deny it. But my release is watching like what my husband calls ratchet TV. Like, so I watch like all that stuff. Like in all the reality, I watch all the hip hops, I watch all the married, at first sights, all that's mindless stuff. And he's like, I don't understand how someone so smart watches that because it's a release. I don't have to think.
Exactly. You don't have to think
I
about
can
it. You don't have to
laugh.
make a decision.
You don't have to make any decisions. It makes you go, oh, my life is pretty good. It's just wonderful. Whatever does it for you, ladies, don't let nobody tell you differently.
Right.
If that's your safe space that helps you to get to a mindless sort of centered place, that's what you need to do. And don't you tell nobody I said that because I will deny
we won't.
Okay.
The secret's safe
I
with
agree.
us. Because we all do it, trust me.
We all do it. We all have our things. We all have our things. For me, I run. I'm like running away. I have a really good friend who said to me, he quotes the Bible. He said, who runs? The Bible literally says, only the sinful run away when nobody's chasing them. He's like, why are you always running? I was like, I love it. I run, I feel, I go. But really good nuggets here. Somebody put about the book, not sweating the small stuff.
Yes.
That's very important. Really learning to give things their place and knowing what you need to focus on. I also see a lot of people talking about our community. And Day, you said it earlier. I know Sharon echoed it, Deborah echoed it, asking for help. I say to my children all the time, no man is an island. And you have to constantly remember that. Do not be afraid to ask for help. I mean, what's going to happen? Somebody's going to raise their hand and help you? Isn't it going to make the load lighter? So yeah, that is really key for all of us to remember, whether you male or female. I mean, really, that's the one lesson I think that really we need to keep reiterating and keep telling ourselves. You can ask for help. You will be surprised how many people will reach out when you raise the white flag and say, hey, I need some help here. So it is really. And so we're almost at the end. So I just want to round it up by asking one question and giving everybody about a minute to think about. So this is a loaded question. So, when we talk about DEI and where DEI is progressing, we hear a lot of things. It's a fad. We know what's happening in Texas, in Florida, some universities. So just give me a nugget about what do you hope for the future of DEI? And I'll start with you, Sharon.
The future of DEI is vitally important to ensuring that we have robust talent for the future. I did a study a while back on statistics of Gen Z and what their expectations are, because they are the most diverse generation that we have. 51% are white, 25% Hispanic, 15% Black, 6% are Asian Pacific Islander, and so on, 5% and 2% for American Indian. 77% of Gen Z prefer working for companies that care about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I believe organizations may suffer if they don't embrace the benefits of a diverse staff. So, and in other words, if we don't continue to support DEI, then we're going to be left behind, because you can go to other countries and you see people look like us in all of these businesses and doing things. We have to continue that work here. So to me, I think DEI is more vital now than it was before some of those legislations took place. You're on mute.
Deborah, you want to go next?
Yep.
Sure. You know what? Sharon, all of that, what you just said, I see, a lot of reports saying how, diversity, equity, inclusion programs are dying, and, is DEI a thing of the past? I honestly, I don't think we're going to have a choice in the future, because honestly, the world is changing. The landscape of how our country looks is changing. It's changing. And so we have to stay ahead, and we have to invite those people in. We're not going to have a choice. Everyone is going to be inclusive, because that's how we're going to look. That's how the world is going to look. So I don't think that diversity, equity, inclusion is a dying breed. I don't think it's a dying thing. I think we're going to continue to have people who advocate and support inclusion, recognize the importance of, whether it's a business imperative, a moral imperative. I mean, it has to be. It has to be inclusion, diversity, equity. We have to have it. It's going to stay here in the future. I don't think we'll have a choice.
Thank you.
You are
Today,
right
take
about
us
that,
home.
Deborah. You are right.
Take us home, Day. Take us home.
We don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. I would love, in my utopic sort of mind, I would love for it to go from, like you said, Carlene, being this trend and this fad, where people start to have fatigue about DEI. We're starting to sense it now, right? I would love for it to go from there to where it's just who we are, right? From intentionality, and we're still in that phase. We still have to be very intentional. We have to be thinking, right? We have to be very conscious because we're still getting folks to acclimate and understand the nuances of inclusivity and diversity and how to speak and what not to say and how to bring people to the table. So we have to be very intentional right now. I'm gonna give us that time. But the ultimate goal is to go from intentionality to natural, where it's not, I'm not thinking anymore about including inclusive policies and processes in my organizational processes and policies. And I don't even have to think about it. It's just who we are. It's what we do. When I call a meeting, when I ask for input, I don't have to go, oh, let me see, do I need this? No, you just naturally sort of find yourself being drawn to people who have different perspectives than you do. When we can get from that point, from intentionality to being natural, then we've reached utopia. And we got to get there, Deborah says. And she's absolutely right, because the world is changing. It's becoming more and more a diverse, brown, and just different races, ethnicities, experiences. At some point, it's just going to have to be who we are, guys. That's what I'm waiting for. That's what I hope.
We'll get there, Dave. We will get there.
We'll get there. Yep.
Yes, we will.
All right. All right. So I just want to give a round.
Yeah.
Right. Just want to give a round of applause to these ladies for the wonderful conversation before I turn it over to SP to close us out. This was indeed phenomenal, and I appreciate each and every one of you. SP, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Carlene. Oh my goodness. I hope all of you feel as energized and as hopeful as I do, because this was a phenomenal conversation. As usual, we do record them, so they will be available for you to view. If you were able to get all those nuggets, you're going to have that opportunity later on. Now, before I say goodbye to all of you, I do want to remind you that we have more CTC conversations coming up. We actually have 2 next month. We have a special one on December 8th with Kula, and then December 15th. The link in the chat will take you to our events page where you can register for those. Thank you so much, Carlene, for being an amazing moderator. Thank you, panelists, for all these wonderful nuggets. Seriously, so inspired right now. Thank you to our AACUC Board of Directors, our chapter officers and staff for always being here and supporting us. We love it. And for the rest of you, have a wonderful weekend and happy holidays to you and yours. Have a great rest of your Friday.